Dave Tepper said that he wanted a guy that could do his eulogy. It's just weird hearing him say that and having somebody as old as Frank Reich. He's like, we don't really need to build a team around Bryce. Let's just build a good all-around team. But the fact that Thomas Brown was on a walkie-talkie with Bryce during practice the whole time, and then Frank Reich ended up being the play caller for the majority of the season, was malpractice. And they didn't take it serious enough. That sounded way too directly of the opposite, or a subliminal to what was gone last year, for me to not think that this guy is really the anti-Frank Reich, the anti-Reich. In this episode of the Panther Banter podcast, we're going to talk about why Dave Canales is the anti-Frank Reich of coaches and stuff that he's been saying so far. What does it mean? What can we build on? Why should we feel encouraged about this new young coach that nobody's ever heard of, that nobody else was interested in but us? But the future may be better than it seems. We got all that and more. We're starting right now. What up, though? Finally, the return. The prodigal son has returned. Finally, Dunk has come back with another episode of the Unnecessary Bluntness Panther Banter podcast, man. I know it's been a long time. It's been a very, very long time since the last episode, but I'm back again. We have to talk about these coaches. I haven't really given a long spiel, but I've been gathering crumbs, listening to these press conferences, listening to every chance we've gotten to hear from Dave Canales, put some stuff together. I want to talk about the stuff he's talked about. Now, I know it's just lip service. Y'all know it's just lip service, and I know I told y'all I'm the objective Dunk this year. I'm not buying into the hoopla. Anything that comes out of that Panthers.com website, I'm not going to drink the Kool-Aid. I got to see action. It feels good. I can't even deny. I'm still a fan. It feels good. It sounds good. However, we have to see action. However, I can't deny the fact that the moves that they've made, I can get down with. And I was a little skeptical of Dan Morgan. I'm not going to lie. I thought it was going to be more of the same. I thought it was just a rehash of the old regime. You know, I thought they had a chance to really reset things into different motion, in different direction. But they stuck with Dan Morgan, who was the assistant for Scott Fitterer. However, they've had a pretty solid free agency. I remember feeling pretty good about free agency, or decent about free agency this time last year as well. So I don't want to feel like I'm drinking the Kool-Aid and just crowning them before things have really gone. We've even seen results. You know what I'm saying? Because I want to at least get to training camp. You know me, I'm boots on the ground at training camp. I want to at least see what this team looks like in action before I give any definitive conclusions about what I expect. But y'all know I got y'all. But I just wanted to check in with this episode of the Panther Banter podcast. It feels good to be back, man. I got the couch set up. You guys know how it is. Rarely use it, so I had to blow the dust off this couch. It's a little different. It's probably a little dirty. I probably should have did some lint rolling on it. But regardless, I'm on this thing, man. So I gotta start using this little thing more. But I think y'all like this angle view, and I like chilling with y'all as well. It's just these lights get kind of hot. But regardless, I'm decked out in my Carolina Panthers vintage tee. Y'all know how I do. A vintage tee. I got my 47 bucket hat on. If you want to get a bucket hat, I'll probably link it up in the YouTube shop. You can shop there and use that as well. I really, really appreciate it. I'll get some commission off that thing, and you'll be fresh as I'm is. But this episode, man, like I said, I'm really not going to buy into it's all lip service. So I'll do another video later after the draft and stuff like that, where I really get into like the X's and O's about what I expect. But I still expect stuff to be different. But I'll just kind of look at what Canales did at his prior stops and what I expect us to be able to do currently. But I just think that this dude, everything I've heard, has been anti-Reich. And it's not because he's probably half Frank Reich's age, which is crazy. But Dave Tepper said that he wanted a guy that could do his eulogy. It's just weird hearing him say that and having somebody as old as Frank Reich. That was crazy to me. But he found it. He found his young offensive-minded guy, Dave Canales. It's not Ben Johnson. We found out that Ben Johnson wasn't all he was cracked up to be. Ben Johnson, he stood up and played hooky on the Commanders, and David Tepper learned his lesson. He didn't want to go down and play them type of games this year. So kudos to David Tepper for doing that this year. But I've been feeling pretty optimistic about Dave. You know what I'm saying? You got to give some of these guys chances. He's been under Pete Carroll for so long. He breathes that positivity. He bet on himself leaving Seattle, so we know his background. He was the pass game coordinator in Seattle with Russ, with Geno. He decided to leave. He didn't get that opportunity to be the offensive coordinator. He probably felt some type of way. But Shane Waldron, I guess was his name, right? The offensive coordinator. He's a very, very creative offensive coordinator in Seattle. So I don't blame them for going that direction. He did a very, very good job with their offense this year. But Dave Canales had to spread his wings. He had to spread his wings, and he went to take that Bucs job, a job that, again, nobody really wanted, because who wanted to work with Baker Mayfield? Who wanted to be the offensive coordinator of the team post Tom Brady? Nobody really knew what direction the Bucs were going to be in. I know personally I did not expect them to win a division, but they have a lot of talent on offense. They went and got Baker. Baker demonstrated that when you put weapons around him, Baker is very capable. And we saw that firsthand, that Baker was not all that great with us. A lot of it wasn't his fault. Came to camp late. Not a lot of talent around him as it was in Tampa. But I think the proof is in the pudding. I think that was a wake-up call for a lot of Panthers fans that, hey, maybe it's us and not all these quarterbacks we've been cycling through. Now, it was Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold's not a good quarterback. I'm just going to say that. Sam Darnold is not a good quarterback. It was not us. It was him. The fact that they tried to force that on us, unacceptable. Still unacceptable to this day. I'm not even going to get on my Sam Darnold rant. Some of y'all, if you've been subscribed long enough, you know how I feel about that boy. But anyway, it's just refreshing to see that we have this young mind. And again, a job that many people thought that nobody wanted. The Panthers, who nobody really did anybody want it? We interviewed a lot of people. I thought they had some opportunities at other places, but many of us thought that, hey, people are gonna be using. They know David Tepper wants to overpay. They're gonna be using him as a measuring stick to try to get better offers. But Dave Canales, he talked about, man, he bet on himself. He said these opportunities don't come along that often. And I've talked about it before previously. Sometimes you have to go out and spread your wings. That move he made was very, very telling and confident in himself to leave Seattle, which he had been there for 12 years. Very, very comfortable. Had a great relationship with a lot of people from what I understand. And he decided to spread his wings and go to Tampa. And the coaching is just so weird because, like I said, I talked about Thomas Brown. Thomas Brown wanted to spread his wings as well. He was with the Rams, didn't get a chance to call plays. He was a tight end coach at one point. But I think knowing and being self-aware, he knew that he had to go somewhere to try to spread his wings. It's a little bit different story being a minority coach like him. I mean, granted, Canales is a minority coach technically, but in terms of being African-American, sometimes like Airbnb, you don't get as much credit when you're under certain coaches. So you have to kind of make certain moves for the betterment of your career and career path. Thomas Brown did it, came to Carolina. It didn't work out. Dave Canales went to Tampa, actually got to call plays full time and build the offense. It worked out. He parlayed that into a head coaching job. So it's just a unique how sometimes certain decisions, similar decisions as far as trajectory of career, affect your career. And environment is everything. It's everything. And so that's just kind of two sides of the spectrum. But regardless, this is about Dave Canales being the anti-Frank Reich. So I'll be looking at my iPad referencing this. I'm doing it without glasses because I didn't want that glare. I didn't want that glare. I like this camera. I like this 4K without the glare of my glasses. So I may be squinting. Like Joe Biden reading this teleprompter at times. So don't mind me. Don't mind me and my astigmatism. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to make something happen. But let's go ahead and get into the reasons why Dave Canales is the anti-Frank Reich. This video is sponsored by Homage. You know, guys, I'm a sucker for nostalgia, and they really specialize in top quality clothing of some of the stuff from the good old days, whether it's NBA Jam, Tecmo Bowl, or just dope, fresh gear for pretty much all the major sports. Hoodies, t-shirts, sweats, they really have a unique spin on pretty much anything you could want in terms of clothing. Be sure to go shop with them, and when you do, use my link down below. I'll be able to get a commission based off of whatever you spend on there, and it'll pretty much you supporting the channel, but also getting something for yourself. You're basically helping me help you because you get dope gear, and I get a little kickback from them letting you know that they appreciate me putting you guys on. I'm a really big fan of the brand too, so it really helps me out in any kind of future partnerships that I may want to explore with them. So one of the big things I've noticed is listening to Dave Canales, and like I said, this is all lip service, but he's pretty much tried and gone out his way to be the anti-Frank Reich, and even Dan Morgan, to an extent, has been the anti-Scott Fitterer. Just listen to what they said. They're deliberately going around out their way. So one thing I think I heard was like, they asked him like, hey, what do you need to do to get Bryce to be right, to fix Bryce? What do you need to fix Bryce? You need to get things together. You spend all this draft capital on it. Dave Canales was like, I didn't spend all this draft capital on Bryce Young. I don't feel that as much pressure. Yeah, that's probably in the job description thanks to David Tepper, but Dave Canales did not spend that draft capital. He inherited Bryce. He wanted to work with Bryce. But instead of being like, oh, Bryce is, he's the brain and he's this smart, he's a great processor, he can do this, that, and the third. Or like the owner said, he can distribute the ball with routes. We don't need to spend money on wide receivers like that. Just really putting a lot of unnecessary pressure, and they gave him a lot in the playbook because he wanted it. Bryce Young is very eager, and he's willing to shoulder that. He's been great his whole life. He's willing to take that on. If he is that bright with processing, he's not going to miss a chance to get better. He's not going to be like, nah, coach, that's too much. He's going to try to take it on, take that challenge. He's a competitor. He believes in himself. But I think that being self-aware of who Bryce is and being able to kind of taper that, I think that's the difference. They put a lot on Bryce Young's shoulders. But Dave Canales, you hear it. He says, we don't need Bryce to be Superman. And I think that's where a lot of fans get confused. They want Bryce to carry. He's the number 1 overall pick. He should carry the franchise. No. Joe Burrow has hella weapons. He doesn't carry the team. He does his part. He delivers the ball. He gets rid of it. He makes clutch plays. The modern NFL, quarterbacks don't really carry the teams anymore, man. They're getting $250 million, but you still got to put a lot of help around them. It's no more Drew Brees throwing the nobodies like Lance Moore or Devery Henderson or making a career out of Marcus Colston or those type of guys. It's different these days. It's no more Tom Brady throwing to David Givens or Troy Brown or Wes Welker or all these nobodies or that you may not know of. Those days are gone. The only person that's really doing that is Patrick Mahomes. The only person really carrying teams and doing it at a high level is Patrick Mahomes. All these quarterbacks need help. Now they're going to try to do it with like Josh Allen now that they got rid of Diggs and stuff. But the only quarterback that's truly carrying a team without weapons or without much help is Patrick Mahomes. Joe Burrow has hella help. Justin Herbert has hella help around him. They spent money on the receivers there. Josh Allen got a bag. They put help around him. It's a different NFL. So the whole notion of we don't need if he's not worth the first overall pick, if we have to put all the help around him, if I have to give him help, I can get anybody to do that. No, you can't. No, you can't. No, you can't. That's just not the reality of the NFL anymore. You know? So all this pressure from the public and the fans because Bryce was number 1 overall, feeling like they should shoulder the blame. Oh, Cam did it. Cam threw the nobodies, and we still did good. Be for real, man. Under Ron Rivera with Cam, we only had 3 winning seasons. We had the highest of highs. We went to a Super Bowl. But the fact that they didn't give Cam more help is the reason why we probably wasted the career of a generational talent. I'm not saying we wasted it. He had a great career, but there's no way we should have had more years like that Super Bowl year, you know what I'm saying, than some of the bad years that we had under Rivera. Granted, we won the division multiple times, had some success, but as far as winning seasons, we did not have that many. We should have got way more. Had we put help around Cam and not forced him to carry the team, we probably could have got more years out of him. So that logic, we need to flip that logic about feeling like our quarterback should just carry. And listening to Dave Canales, he says that we just need Bryce. He don't have to carry the team. And that's the difference between Reich and them. They wanted to give all this to Bryce. No, Canales is like, no, Bryce just needs to do his 111th. He just needs to do his job like everybody else. I got a clip that I'm going to play right here where he talks about that.
Do here going forward.
Yeah, so this just takes me back to 2012, and young Russ coming in and building an offense, building a defense, a team that allows Russ to really accentuate the talents that he has, And so for me, looking at Bryce, let's play a brand of football that takes the quarterback off the high dive. Kind of stole that from Sean Payton. He said it last year. Is like the quarterback doesn't need to be, the critical part of every single play. How about you just be special 3 to 5 times a game?
Yeah.
How about for the other 95% of the game, you just manage it. You just get us to the right run, get us to the right pass, throw it to the first open guy. Life's better that way. And so can we get him to playing a brand of football? The run game's a big part of that.
Yeah.
Play actions, screens, all part of that just kind of breather plays for the quarterback. Can we build that type of a system for a guy that allows him to just feel like I can do this, and then we can expand it, if it calls for that, then we can expand our game and expand what we do, but minimize those situations where you put him in that high stress environment.
Right. He just needs Bryce to do his 111th. And just even to piggyback off that clip, there's another clip they talked about when he said that, hey, what are you guys going to do in the draft to get help for Bryce? He's like, we don't really need to build a team around Bryce. Let's just build a good all-around team. Let's play the clip right here.
For me, I think it's not about surrounding Bryce with great players. It's about building a great team. Then Bryce can just do his part of it. That's my goal. That's my heart for this whole thing, is I want him to be able to feel like he can just come and just do his 111th. If he can just do his part, if you look at the great teams he was a part of in Alabama, he won a lot of games when they had a good offense, a good defense. He did his part, and he played big in big moments, and I would love to create that here so he can just do that part of it and not make it about him. The pass game will be specific to Bryce. We'll become that. It'll become what he's confident with and what he can do. But I think that's kind of, hopefully, if I said that a different way, I apologize. Just kind of want to, try to build a team the right way.
And the haters will take it out of context and be like, oh, the Panthers don't want to build around Bryce. No. The Panthers need to build a better team. If you've been watching me for a while, after we beat the Texans, I was celebrating. I was going crazy. I was happy. But reality set in, and I told you guys, at the time the Texans were below 500, if I'm not mistaken. The fact that Bryce Young had to play flawless, the defense had one of their best games of the year, hands down. We played clean overall football on both sides with turnovers. The fact that it took a last-second drive to milk the clock, to pretty much delete a whole half a quarter, and to kick a last-minute field goal to squeak out a win against a 500 team. I know they made the playoffs later, but the fact that it took all that against a 500 or below 500 record team, not a great team, the fact that it took all of that to go right for us to win shows how flawed the team was. There were no room for error. And that's why I felt like Bryce might have been gun shy at times, because if I make a mistake here, it's pretty much over. If I don't make every play, sometimes you start pressing when you know you got to make every play. But when you have a better defense or a running game you can rely on, you don't have to make every play. And Dave Canales said that. We just need him to do his 111th. Do what you're supposed to do, run the offense, hit open receivers, and be clutch when we need you to. And Bryce has shown in college that he can be clutch. He's shown in his rookie year he could be clutch. The Texans game, the Falcons game, he played some good ball there, was clutch. The Green Bay game, he was clutch as well. He just kind of ran out of time, unfortunately. So we've shown down the stretch he can be clutch. And so that's literally all you need him to do. Make a few clutch, big plays during each game. Just do your 111. Don't try to do too much. So that's the difference between a Frank Reich team and a Dave Canales team. That's the first point. But the next one is communication between the staff and front office. Now, this was a clip about the pre-draft person. Like I said, this is not just Dave Canales, but the fact that him and Dan Morgan came in at the same time. And this is more Dan Morgan driven because he saw the same thing. He's like the anti-Scott Fitter as well. But then they go kind of hand in hand. The fact that he witnessed the missteps last year, the fact that we kind of drafted Mingo, even though he wasn't really a good fit for Bryce Young. Mingo's not that, he's a developmental wide receiver. Bryce Young is more of a rhythm, anticipatory type of thrower. Square peg, round hole. We had that same offensive line that we had with Steve Wilkes. We thought that if we just run it back with a better coach like Frank Reich, we could do the same thing. No, we're running the wide zone stuff when we probably had a better downhill, simple running scheme, inside zone, duo, combo like we did with Steve Wilkes. And we had guys not performing correctly. Icky took a step back. Bozeman stepped back. It's just the system didn't fit the personnel. And guys just consistently weren't on the same page with what they wanted and what we had and put together. But listen to now the pre-draft presser of what the process they went through.
Yeah, well, Dan had the great ideas like right off the bat when we came in with the two staffs. Once our staffs were set, he said, let's bring them in here. I want you guys to talk about our schemes to my staff, to the personnel department and the guys. And so we literally went like big picture offensive philosophy, Ajero comes in and talks about big picture defensive philosophy. Each position coach talked about the traits that they're looking for. And so then we were able to kind of bring that picture to life from a coaching standpoint, and really give. That was before the scouts all went out on the road and started going to all the pro days, so that was a big part of it. Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think that's been the big thing is just me and Dave talking and just kind of like what we want position specific. What do we want at each position? Schematically, what are we doing? What are we looking to add on offense? What are we looking at on defense? What type of players down to the small details of what type of players we want at our nickel, at our corner, at our safety, and I think that's been a big difference this year. It's just us getting together, having a really good understanding of what we're doing on offense, the type of guys we want to bring on offense, and then likewise, on the other side of the ball with EJ.
I don't know how unique that is. It may be unique, it may not be, but the fact that they deliberately went out their way, sat down with all the coaching staff and everybody there. And I know it helps with Ajero because you're another year in the system. You can kind of feel what they want anyway now, and Dan has said that. But the fact that they sat down and be like, okay, what do we want to be as a team? We want to be I'm just talking an example. We want to be an aggressive defense that causes turnovers. We're going to play a soft coverage, but we're going to blitz. Okay, if that's the case, you need guys that can win on the edges fast. You need cornerbacks that can take the ball away and has great hands and jump routes, have good at route recognition. You need good coverage linebackers. That's what we need. Okay, so that's the type of guys you need. I need them to have 35-inch arms. I need them to have a good first step. I need them to be good laterally. They don't have to be that heavy, but I need that. That's the specifics that they got with the front office. That's the type of conversation they have on offense. We're going to be a zone running scheme. We're going to get rid of the ball fast. So we need receivers that can win and separate quick. We need offensive linemen that are strong so they don't get pushed back. They only got to block for 2.5 seconds, but we just need strong guys. Okay, let's go out and get some strong guards that can do that. Robert Hunt came from a system in Miami where Tua Tagovailoa had one of the fastest time to throws. So you get a big guard like that that's used to a system where you get the ball out quick. That's what we're going to do. So you're on the same page getting those type of guys. Okay, we need to get the ball out fast. We need guys that can separate and win quick. Okay, let's go get Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson has one of the best open scores in the NFL since he's been in the league. He can win quick. That makes sense. That goes hand in hand. So let's go into the draft. What are we looking in the draft? Let's get more guys that can win quick. They're going to maybe do that. We're looking for a strong running game. We need a running back that has every down skill set. You saw what I did last year with Rachaad White. I need a running back that can catch the ball. Okay, let's look at Will Shipley from Clemson. Let's look at Trey Benson, who has a 3-down skill set that can catch the ball. Let's look at Jonathan Brooks from Texas that can catch the ball. So they're just moving in lockstep. They made it clear. They sat in those meetings. You have certain traits that you look for when you're running a system. Certain things are key. Certain things are key. And so communicating that, being on the same page, I just love to hear that. Because it just felt like last year, remember, the rumors came out that Scott Fitter and them wanted to change Bryce's footwork and mechanics to help the pressure. But Josh McCown and Frank Reich said no, because that was an off-season project. And then you got front office talking about, hey, let's adjust Bryce's drop back because the offensive line sucks. You got Dave Campbell snitching to David Tepper, saying that the offensive line isn't blocking good because Bryce's drops are incorrect. So you got the front office on certain things, telling Frank Reich certain things, and then people are just aren't on the same page. But now it seems like that's different. Not just that, the communication with the players as well. The communication. And so Dave talked about another sit-down communicating meeting before they even hit the field. He talked about sitting down and walking through the assignments on every play. I have a clip.
It's about just creating the same language. What do we call this concept? What do we call these types of runs? Running back. Your aiming point is, and you hear the whole room say, outside leg of the tackle. So we're starting to kind of drill in some of that. It feels a little bit clunkier on the offensive side, but there is an excitement. And we've gotten some good feedback from the guys just in terms of the way that we're just taking it progressively, just in chunks, and giving it to them in a digestible form so we can master one part before we go to the next. So I think long way to answer your question is it starts with the communication, because I believe if we can speak the same language, then we can build something quicker.
And that stuff seems basic and trivial, but like making sure literally everybody knows what everybody's supposed to do on every play. Say, what's the aiming point on the zone running? Oh, the outside foot of the tight end or the tackle or whatever. Making sure everybody knows the key points, the terminology. They even talked about Brad Isaac. He even talked about ironing out communication as well on that and terminology. And that's just crazy to me too, because getting the communication right. Like I said, it seems like a lot of them were here last year and they want to be the anti-Frank Reich. Remember Icky blew that assignment? I can't remember what game it was. Remember Icky blew that assignment though? And remember the excuse was that, oh, there's two like Icky just stood there. He didn't even like try to block anybody. And come to find out, Icky didn't know like his assignment because two words in our protection in the playbook matched each other or they sounded alike. So there was some confusion because one word sounded like the other. And he thought it was this, but it was really that. But since they sounded alike, the communication was bad.
Was one of those miscommunications the sack with Thibodeau? And if so, could you explain what happened?
Yeah, it was a miscommunication. There was a line call made, and he thought we heard one thing, two words that sound similar, and in the heat of the battle, we heard the wrong word.
So the fact that our current regime is trying to iron that stuff out and literally is saying we're making sure that stuff and terminology is clear and concise and the players on the same page.
We got to have a great offseason of teaching our systems, teaching our language, making sure that we can get a unified communication. Because if we can streamline our communication, then we'll be able to go where we want to really fast. And that's kind of the highway is communication. So making sure we remove synonyms, get on the same page that way. Get on the same page that way. That's what competing in this time of the year looks like. And that'll lead us right into training camp and preseason. Every one of those games is going to be a huge opportunity for us to become us, to see what version of football we want to play. We want to walk off of that field saying, this is Panthers football. It's tough, it's fast, it's physical, it's really intelligent style of play. And that's kind of going to be our approach.
Dave, as you go through the pre-draft process, you see any effect from NIL?
Anti-Frank Reich. It's crazy. Anti-Frank Reich. Because you don't want those type of little things, man. That's the type of stuff that gets you beat. Communication, that's stuff that you work on now. It shouldn't be a problem in the fall like it was for us. It shouldn't be. That's inexcusable. But the communication with the players is different. Anti-Frank Reich, I'm telling y'all. Actually, the next thing is actually being involved with the defense. And I love Ejiro Evero, and clearly he wasn't a Frank Reich guy. He was just available, and we had that bag. And Gus Bradley wasn't coming from the Colts to come with Frank. So Ejiro was available, didn't get a head coaching job, got released from the Broncos to go find a new job. They dropped the bag. I think they were paying $3 million last year. Probably got a raise to stay around because he could have easily left. But Canales talks about how much he values Ejiro, how much he's gotten trouble from that similar system, how he sat in on defensive meetings, and not just to be like put in input. He wants to learn. Frank Reich, it felt like, yeah, Ejiro, they're just going to do their thing. They have their own meetings. I don't really have a say-so with that. They kind of do what they want. And they churned the roster. You could tell that they were in lockstep because so many different players were in and out of the lineup defensively. And Frank was just kind of like, yeah, whatever. Ejiro, we kind of let them do their thing. And it's just, yes, you don't want to hover, but at the same time, you still need to be involved. So Dave Canales is actually sitting in meetings and learning and trying to soak up things and being very, very thoughtful and wanting Ejiro to come back. Anti-Frank Reich. He's the anti-Frank Reich. But open communication and awareness is better. Like, you want your defense and your offense to complement each other. They said they want to take care of the football and take away the football. Defense gives the offense more opportunities. Offense takes care of the ball. They don't put the defense in bad spots. And one of the final things about why Dave Canales is the Frank Reich, and it's very interesting. And he talked about getting the football right. Now, this has some layers. Now, that sounds like coach's speak, and it is kind of coach's speak, but literally getting the football right to me is the fundamentals. Now, for me, if you guys been watching me during I don't know which preseason game, I had a postseason reaction, and people were just saying like, hey, it's the first preseason game, we're just rusty. Don't overreact, Dunk. You overreacting. It's still early. It's just training camp. And I was like, no, it's the fundamentals that I miss. It's like, you could tell me that it's going to be vanilla. You could tell me we're not running the offense. We're not running the playbook. It's vanilla. But the fundamentals don't have to be vanilla. Y'all were trying to tell me that. And I was like, no, it's the fundamentals. That's what I was stressing on that post game reaction. I was like, the fundamentals were off. Like, don't tell me that the fundamentals are vanilla. Those don't go out the window just because they're vanilla. That's what you need to execute every time. The fundamentals. And that's what it means to me to get the football right. Blocking, catching the football. You know what I'm saying? Knowing your assignments. Not jumping off sides. Being disciplined. Tackling. Like, those are fundamental things in the football game. You know? And so that's what I was literally upset about in the preseason. Because I want to look at some of these numbers. Because if we do get the football right, that's what he said. We weren't really blown out. There was a couple blowouts. The Lions, the Dolphins, we actually had a lead early on. That was a blowout. But we were in a lot more games than we thought. And Dave Canales, he had a speech where he talked about if we get the football right, we could compete for the division. I'm not really all the way with him in terms of competing out to see, but he has a point. Last year, there were a lot of games that we were in or like we were hovering around. I'm thinking of Vikings. I'm thinking of Bucks game where like penalties, missed assignments, false starts like that just ruined the game for us. Unforced errors. That's stuff that you can get yourself. The fundamentals, that type of stuff, knowing your assignment. It doesn't take talent to know your job. It doesn't take talent to not jump on the false start. It doesn't take talent to not hold. It doesn't take talent to get in and out of the huddle and not get a delay of game. The Panthers last year were third in the NFL in false starts with 27 false starts. Third. The league average was 20. This is according to NFLpenalties.com. Third in the NFL in false starts. I think Icky might have had 7 on his own. Maybe more. But those are unforced errors. Those 5 yards don't seem like much. But when you have no room for error, like I talked about earlier, that puts you behind the sticks. When you're only averaging 3-point-something yards per carry, when you're only averaging 4-point-something yards per pass attempt, getting in the 1st and 15 or going from second and short to second and long, that can be drive killers. It felt like when we got behind the sticks, it was almost insurmountable. We had to stay on schedule. We had no room for error. And we didn't give ourselves room for error because we're third in the NFL in false starts. 22 holding penalties. Second most in the league. The league average is 18. That's crazy. That's crazy. These are penalties and stuff that you got to get right with the fundamentals. Not moving your feet, so you end up having a hold. Not being disciplined with your hands, so you grab it too wide on the outside. Getting beat off the line of scrimmage in the run game, so you gotta grab a guy, take him to the ground. Getting the football right, you get that stuff right. You like I said, you can even get nails down to league average. You ain't got to be the best, least penalized team or most disciplined team. You can't just be top 5 and top 3 in those type of unforced error categories. It doesn't take any talent to not get a false start. It doesn't. And I understand that nobody shows up to our games, so the home games feel like road games. So it's loud at home. We got to go silent count. I know we played at Seattle, but like we played in too many close games that if you take away some of these penalties, does it put us in better position to make things happen? I can think of that Vikings game. We had, I think LaVisca had like a screen that ended up put us in the scoring position in the red zone. But I think Icky was a legal man downfield. That's unacceptable. And that ended up turning that game because I think that's when we had that sack fumble return for a touchdown by DJ Wanham. Shout out to DJ Wanham. He's a Panther now. But that's the thing. You go from being in scoring position to having to back up, and then the following play, you get a blitz, a free runner, sack, ball, return for a touchdown. We end up losing that game on the final drive against the Vikings when we had every opportunity. We should have been in that game. So getting the football right, like Dave Canales said, will put us in position to be a lot more competitive. Like I said, there's only a few blowouts. The Jaguars game is also as well. Not saying that we have a winning record, but I'm thinking 4-5 games where penalties and bad coaching and not having the football right lost us the game or didn't even give us a chance. So you get that stuff right. A football is not round like a basketball. It's oblong. You just never know where it's going to bounce. So any given day with a salary cap league, you can win games if you don't beat yourself. You get the football right. You're going to give yourself a chance. Like he said, if we get the football right, you're going to have a chance. I don't think that's far-fetched. I wouldn't agree until I see the team, but I don't think it's far-fetched to feel like if we get these things right, the football right, we'll be fine. But I just also think that the last point is like Dave Canales is taking this very serious. It felt like Frank Reich probably should have took a year off from coaching. That burnout from being with a rough owner in Indy and then coming with the pressure when you haven't had a rookie quarterback before, you traded up to the #1 overall pick, you have an impatient owner, you have a team that almost went to the playoffs, so they're thinking that you're the guy to get them over the top. It just seemed like after a while he was burnt out. Dave Canales ain't burnt out. He's not taking this stuff for granted. And like I talked about earlier, about him feeling like he had to take this opportunity because things change quickly in the league. You may be a hot candidate one day, you're not the other. Like, dang, homie, last year you was the man. So it changes, man. It's a week to week, year to year league. And Frank just felt real nonchalant about stuff. I can think about that preseason game where we got killed. I'm going to play this clip of him not taking it serious. Play the clip.
I mean, I appreciate that question because, right, I mean, it's hard. I mean, you know, you don't like getting shut out and getting beat 27-0. But I have a lot of years in this league that tell me that preseason scores aren't the most meaningful thing. So not that we're not accountable for that, we are, but it's not the most important thing right now. It's just not. We're trying to evaluate our team. You know, we're trying to, you know, some of it is, you know, listen, this is by design. I mentioned this the other day. You know, we're very generic now. We did nothing, you know, in our scheme, nothing. And that's not an excuse. I expected us to do a lot. So we kept it simple so that we could do a lot, so that we didn't have to think much, so that we could just evaluate one-on-one play. And so we need to do better there. But as a coaching staff, we really didn't make it. We weren't trying to put the guys in the best position, you know, the whole game with really in any phase. So
you have a rookie quarterback, and they're already talking about keeping it vanilla. You need live bullets and live reps. The practice and training camp wasn't enough. I was there, very, very controlled. You need live bullets with guys that are actually trying to peel your muffin cap back blue. The defense was eating your lunch in practice, and they were taking it easy. I was there in training camp, and I told y'all. So you needed more live reps in preseason. Not vanilla stuff. Just run what you got. What are you trying to hide? I was expecting us to run like the Statue of Liberty, the annotation of whatever that play is called from the trick plays. You know what I'm saying? I was expecting all that to come out of the playbook against the Falcons. The way they were talking about they wanted to keep it vanilla in preseason, I thought we was about to go in the bag. And I knew that we didn't have that much talent. And I knew that it was going to be a hell of a play calling job by Frank for us to be decent, but it didn't happen. It just seemed like he didn't take preseason serious enough. He treated it like we didn't have a rookie quarterback. He treated it like we didn't have a brand new coaching staff with a bunch of moving parts. It was just frustrating. But I want to play a clip about what Dave Canales feels about an opportunity to get better.
You know, for Panthers fans, for the Carolinas, you know, it's show up as you show up to practices, as you show up to games. Starting in the preseason, we're going to take those games as serious as any of them. Hopefully they come out here and they see just great effort. they see people straining to finish plays. I hope that they see a lot of juice, a lot of excitement along the sideline with the coaches, just really encouraging each other, celebrating the things to celebrate. I hope they see a toughness about our ball, starting with the run game and the defense and special teams. I hope they can see that toughness. And then finally, I hope they see us make some really smart decisions, end of half, end of games. Wow, that was a really good way to keep the clock running, or that was an excellent usage of clock to get us into a scoring play. I hope that they can see that type of brand of football for a long time, and I'm committed to bringing that on a daily basis.
That's what competing in this time of the year looks like, and that'll lead us right into training camp and preseason. Every one of those games is going to be a huge opportunity for us to become us, to see what version of football we want to play. We want to walk off of that field saying, this is Panthers football. It's tough, it's fast, it's physical, it's really intelligent style of play, and that's kind of going to be our approach.
Dave Canales is not playing. He's not going to waste any time. You hear it. Use the preseason. It means like that sounded way too directly of the opposite or a subliminal to what was gone last year for me to not think that this guy is really the anti-Frank Reich, the anti-Reich. It ain't just preseason. We're not just going to keep it vanilla. We're going to try to compete, like what he said. We're going to try to compete. We're going to try to get better. We're going to try to do what it do out there. Don't waste any opportunity. What are you saving it for? We're not going to win the Super Bowl this year. We could. We just never know in this league. But we need every opportunity to get better. If we show something, we show something. Oh, well. They're going to have a bunch of film on us by the season anyway. Let your nuts hang. Let your hair down. Go all out. Don't play the starters all 4 quarters, of course. But don't be claiming it's vanilla or holding back things for the season. We don't want to show our week 1 opponent what we're doing. Bump all that. You're going to have to execute and show up anyway. It's going to be rusty in week 1 anyway. Preseason's not long enough for you to work out all the kinks. Go at it. Don't waste an opportunity to get better. Dave Canales, he has it right. He has his mind right on that standpoint. He's the anti-Frank Reich. Not going to waste any opportunity to get better. Because he needs to work on he's only been calling plays for a year himself. So he probably needs to get better himself doing that. He wants to take that opportunity, get those reps in. Working with Bryce. This is his first time working with a second-year quarterback that young. First time working with Bryce in general. First time being the head coach. He needs to work those reps as well. Frank Reich was too comfortable. He was in his second job as a head coach. So he was like, nah, I'm going to let Thomas Brown call the plays in practice and in preseason. And then try to figure it out. I'm telling you, on the walkie-talkie during training camp practice, and I reported it, Thomas Brown was on the walkie-talkie. And they hadn't revealed who's going to call the plays yet, but the fact that Thomas Brown was on the walkie-talkie with Bryce during practice the whole time, and then Frank Reich ended up being the play caller for the majority of the season, was malpractice. And they didn't take it serious enough. I'm telling you, did not take it serious enough. Dave Canales may let somebody else call plays during preseason. I doubt it. Because he needs those reps himself. Like I said, he's only been calling plays for a full season once. So him and Bryce need to work on their relationship being on the headset and stuff as well. So I don't expect Dave Canales to not be on the walkie-talkie in practice or not calling plays in preseason. I don't expect that at all. I don't. He's the anti-Frank Reich. A quick question real quick. Do you like sports? Of course you do. You're watching this sports channel. Of course, it's unnecessary blunt and sports talk. But how about making money? Yeah, we all like making money. Bills got to get paid. But how about doing both at the same time? Sounds good? Well, I want to tell you about the partner I've been working with, Underdog Fantasy. It's the easiest way to get some action in sports and also make these games a little bit more interesting. Right now, they have their pick'em option that they're doing, and I've been all over it for the NBA playoffs. So it's pretty straightforward. All you got to do is just pick higher or lower on your favorite or least favorite, I guess, player stats for the night, and you can win up to 20 times your money in a single night. And one of my favorite parts about Underdog Fantasy is the pick'em insurance, because none of us are perfect. So this gives you a little extra wiggle room. So if one of your guys that you have on your slip misses, you still have a chance to collect some money because of that pick'em insurance got your back. So here's what I want you to do. Go ahead and download the Underdog Fantasy app and use the code DUNKON100 to get a 100% match on your first deposit for my gift to you. and we can bet along together. You can even follow me on Twitter where I post most of my underdog picks on a daily basis. We can all get paid together. And their mobile app is pretty slick and their website is pretty straightforward too, so you'll have no problem jumping right in and getting to the bread like me. Must be 18 years or older to play and be present in the state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Are you concerned with your play? Call 1-800-522-4700 or visit www.mcpgambling.org for help. All right, this segment is called As a Matter of Fact, where I always give you guys a stat or a nugget or some kind of fun fact that you might not have known of. Know what I'm saying? So I had to go in my bag. If you follow me on Twitter, you usually get these first. But today's, as a matter of fact, random stat or whatever is, did you know in 2020, the Carolina Panthers traded up into the second round from pick number 69 to number 64. And when they traded up in 2020, they selected safety Jeremy Chinn. Jeremy Chinn, one of my favorite players, man. Good luck up in Washington with the Commanders. They chose him. I thought it was a good pick. I like Jeremy Chinn. But the funny fact about this is they traded with the Seattle Seahawks. And who did the Seattle Seahawks choose with that pick number 69 that they got from the Carolina Panthers? They chose current Panthers guard and free agent signing Damian Lewis. Damian Lewis, yes. Damian Lewis was drafted by the Seahawks via a trade with the Panthers. Now he's on the Panthers. Isn't it crazy how life just comes full circle? The NFL is just full circle moment like that. Like, it's just funny to me, man. I'm not saying a shoulda, coulda, woulda thing, but it's just funny how those things work. Another one, though, in that same draft, we chose Itur Gross-Matos at pick number 38. Guess who was pick number 39? Our right guard, Robert Hunt. He was chosen by the Miami Dolphins right after that. Now he's on our team. Full circle moment. I mean, like I said, it's just random facts. It's all shoulda, coulda. Like I said, it's not shoulda, coulda, woulda. Because I don't know. I can't even think back where we at. We probably should have took a guard that year. I think we went with Pat Elflein that year, and I don't even know who our guards were. It was crazy. So we probably could have used a Robert Hunt at that point, but you know how Matt Rule, he likes his guards athletic with short arms and all that stuff. But like I said, it's not a shoulda, coulda, woulda. I think it's just funny that we traded a pick and he ended up coming back to us in the same year that Jeremy Chinn left us. And then Robert Hunt was chosen one pick after Itur. The NFL is crazy, man. Life is crazy. But it's just ironic sometimes when this stuff comes full circle. And that's really all I'm trying to point out here. Nothing really crazy. But as a matter of fact segment brought to you by Unnecessary Bluntness Sports Talk. All right, let's wrap this thing up, man. In conclusion, David Tepper needs to be patient with this regime. And I need to as well. The fan base does as well. Now, I gave you all the clips. I talked about all the word. It feels like they might have gotten this hire right. I think Dave Canales might be that guy. On paper, he's saying all the right things. He has to execute. He's spoken highly of. Granted, Frank Reich was talked about being a good man. Matt Rule was talked about being a program builder. So they're going to gas these guys up currently. But it just feels like Dave Canales is very bright, very thought out. He knows what he wants. He's very strategic and targeted with how he's going to attack the plan. Like you heard every little segment when he was anti-Frank. That's tactical how he put that together. So I think he has that brain power. And I think he may be baby Pete Carroll for real. He said he's been talking to Pete Carroll now that Pete Carroll's not a coach anymore. He has that front office spot. He can really rely on him a lot more. And so I think this guy could figure it out, man. He has the energy. He has that positivity. He's young. He's hungry. He may not be the young offensive mind like Ben Johnson, but I think he has the right energy. He's made of the right stuff. I'm going to give Dan Morgan a chance as well because they've done pretty solid. And from all I can tell, Brant Tillis, he's been a godsend. Brant Tillis has championship DNA coming from the Chiefs, winning multiple Super Bowls. Handling the salary cap. The contract structures look phenomenal. Most of these guys don't have guaranteed salary after 2025, which is 2 seasons from now. And so to me, it just lets me know that they're planning for the future to an extent, but at the same time, they're taking it step by step. Bryce is going to get his full contract. They're going to try to figure out what Bryce Young is. They're going all in, most of these guys, for the next 2 years. If it doesn't work out for whomever for the next 2 years, they can get pushed out. You don't nail yourself down with flexibility. I mean, without having flexibility, you give yourself cap flexibility and roster building flexibility. But I want to give these guys time because we don't have a lot of cornerstones. And I don't know what's going to happen with Jerry Vero. He deserves to be a head coach, but I would love to keep him around for as long as possible. If nobody wants to give him a chance, unfortunately, I do love to see my African-American brothers get their opportunity, especially defensive coaches who they think that just aren't good coaches. But you see a guy in Houston turn that team around, and now they about to go get it. They're going all in, putting their chips on the table. But they told me that defensive coaches, it just don't work. That's what they said. That's what they told me. D'Amico's doing his thing. So we can see what happens with Ajiro eventually, but I just like I like the groundwork that's being put in. David Tepper hasn't completely stepped out. We've heard that he's still hovering a little bit and sitting in prospect meetings and whatever. But I think if these guys get off to a solid start and are promising, I think David Tepper will fall back. I just think that he feels like if he doesn't get off to a good start right away, that's when he ultimately starts to meddle. And they're going to be involved. They want to. It's their baby. They spend a lot of money on it. So I don't really blame him for that. But I feel like if they start doing good, he'll fall back. And that's a lot of pressure on Dave. But I still think they deserve a year or two. I think this is a 2-year turnaround. I think this first year, we can lay the groundwork, be competitive, get that football right, figure out what kind of team we want to be, and then start leaning into that. Because now we're going to have to go out there and try stuff. Dave said it. We're going to build a running game. We have ideas, but we have to go out there and see what works and do more of what works and less of what doesn't, or figure out how to make the stuff that we don't do well. He talked about how stubborn he was with the running game. He talked about how they figured it out in Tampa. Started off only averaging 70, bumped it up to 80 eventually, and it finished the season averaging 97 a game. So they made incremental improvements. So he wants to problem solve. He wants to figure it out. I think it sounds like they had the right idea. This first year is going to be figuring what we are as a team. Because we don't have a lot of long-term answers currently, so we're going to need to get some draft capital, need to get some young talent in here on rookie deals, need to hit on some third-round picks, some second-round picks who can come in and make some plays for cheap. We're going to be back in the first round next year. We got a defensive lineman we can build around with Derek Brown. We got to figure out what Bryce Young is. Like, it's going to take some time. And then once we do that, I think that following year, once we figure out like they did with the Texans, they actually happened to up and fall into a division championship and a solid playoff run. And they're like, okay, we know what we need to do. Let's push all the chips to the table. And I feel like that should be the Panthers' mindset. While you're building for the future and the current with draft picks through the draft and stuff like that, this first year is just figuring out what you are, figuring out getting Bryce Young's confidence up, figuring out what he can do well in this Dave Canales system, letting them all figure each other out, laying that foundation. And then that second year, let's go all in. And if things just blow up in our face, like I said, a lot of those contracts, those big contracts, Damian Lewis, Robert Hunt, even Derek Brown, those first 2 years, after those first 2 years, there's no guaranteed salary. So we can go in on the first 2 years and make a play from there and decide where we want to go from there if we need to turn things around. That will be after Bryce Young's third year. If Bryce is cooked, I mean, they may want to move on. But I still think that Bryce Young is going to be able to make incremental improvements enough for them to feel good about him. And then that third year of his, they can really go all in getting weapons and stuff like that. It's going to be a process, guys. We got to be patient, unfortunately. They've been preaching patience since he bought the team. But I still think we have to give Dave Canales a chance. He sounds like Baby Pete, bro. Baby Pete is what I'm going to call him if he start putting it together. But he sounds like the right guy. He sounds like he's made up the right stuff. I'm actually kind of excited. I'm more curious than anything to see what all this stuff is going to look like. I ain't drinking the Kool-Aid yet, but once the season starts, I'm going to be out there yelling, man. I'm going to be yelling and cussing at my TV, doing what I got to do, rooting for wins every Sunday. But I just think that we're in the spot where some changes. Hopefully we got this thing right. I'm tired of doing research on head coaches. I'm tired of talking about the Rooney Rule. I'm tired of GM hunting and stuff like that. That continuity will do nothing but help everybody. So we got to find some stability, got to find some continuity. Let's get this thing right, man. Keep pounding. I appreciate you guys watching. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the Panther Banter podcast, but also the channel, Unnecessary Bluntness Sports Talk. This has been an Unnecessary Bluntness production I am your host, Aaron Duncan here. Make sure you guys stay tuned. I appreciate you guys watching. Give this video a thumbs up if you have not. Make sure you guys stay blessed. I'll see you next time. Peace.